Sometimes football can go in the wrong direction. Still, some mistakes have no reasonable explanation or logical reason for happening. The crazy thing about the mistake made in history of the Portuguese national team is that it happened between a player and the manager during one of the biggest tournaments in the world. A story that started with love and respect, molding them into a father and son figure, turned tragic at the wrong time. Who would have imagined that after winning the European Championship together as a coach and as a temporary player coach, the relationship between Cristiano Ronaldo and Fernando Santos would turn sour? Ronaldo was 31 years old in 2016, looking to help Portugal win their first international trophy. It was Euro 2016 final, and Portugal's fate looked to end in hard luck as Ronaldo got injured early in the first half. The scripts couldn't have been written any better. The injury handed Ronaldo an opportunity to share the touchline with Santos. Ronaldo returned from the hospital with the match heading into extra time. They boastfully guided Portugal to their first international trophy in years with a deadly strike by Eder from outside the box. Before then, Portugal had never won the European Championship. The last time they came very close to winning it was in 2004 when they lost to Greece.
But you've got to hand it to Greece.
10 years later, the 19-year-old boy had grown into a man. Ronaldo, Portugal's captain, was emotional as he, Fernando Santos, and his teammates just did the impossible because nobody in the world could have ever imagined that Portugal would win the international tournament at that time. With that sort of emotional speech, it seemed the beautiful ending would be winning the World Cup together. The last thing that would have crossed anybody's mind is a fallout between these two in the coming years, but you never know what could happen in the future. The worst thing is that the antipathy between them didn't happen in any tournament, but in the biggest competition in football, the FIFA World Cup. Even if it was to be a fallout, it shouldn't have been during the World Cup tournament. It should never have been. Fernando Santos, Portugal's manager then, was seduced by the idea of playing a younger striker ahead of his veteran striker. Gonzalo Ramos, who was 21 years old at the time, had scored 4 goals against Switzerland in the round of 16, where Ronaldo was surprisingly on the bench. It seemed that the team had found their holy grail, at least for that competition. Different narratives were flying around after the match that it was positive, for Ramos and devastating for Cristiano Ronaldo, but the day the mistake would hurt Portugal finally came. Ramos started over Ronaldo again in the quarterfinals against Morocco. Unfortunately for Fernando Santos, this was the day he made the biggest mistake of his managerial career. They say that life sometimes gives you a second chance. Yes, Santos had his first chance and he was already living on his second chance as he left Ronaldo, the best player in the history of the Portuguese national team, on the bench in the previous match, and he did so again in the quarterfinal. This was his last chance and he didn't even know it. Maybe he saw things differently, or perhaps he thought he was doing the right thing. Whilst Fernando Santos was still experimenting with quite an inexperienced striker, Ronaldo was sitting on the bench feeling humiliated and betrayed by his manager in front of the whole world when he could have been on the pitch representing his country on the biggest stage of all. You could tell he was crying inside. Morocco weren't exactly seen as the underdogs, but it was clear Portugal were the better team. Morocco took the lead against Portugal just 3 minutes to the end of the first half with a breathtaking header from Yusuf El Nasiri. The goal left the world in shock amid the drama between Ronaldo and Fernando Santos. It was time to make a change, and Fernando Santos did immediately. They returned for the second half, with Portugal already trailing to Morocco by 1 goal. Ronaldo was on the pitch, but the damage was already done. He created a chance and also a half chance to try and score an equalizer, but like they say in football, close is not really good enough. Morocco took their semi-final spot in the blink of an eye, and at this point, Fernando Santos must have known that it was all over between him and the national team. Ronaldo, 37 years old here, in tears, walking down to the dressing room, captured by the camera. It shouldn't have happened this way. This was an opportunity to win the most prestigious trophy in his last days as a footballer. According to Santos, not a single word has been exchanged between him and Ronaldo since leaving Qatar in 2022. It was as tragic as that. Those moments when it's better not to say something, or it's best not to say anything at all, you just let things go. That was it. There was nothing to say. The only thing that could be done was just to go home and keep crying. Although Fernando Santos believed that Ronaldo wasn't in the best condition and the best rhythm following the death of his twins and the fallout with Erik ten Hag at Manchester United, that cut his preseason short and kind of left him a little game time before the season began. just before the World Cup. But still, as long as it wasn't a case of an injury or Ronaldo not being fit, Ronaldo should have been in the starting 11. The thought of Portugal having the best player on the bench could have been, create that weird feeling for Morocco, the opposition team, and Morocco just saw that since Ronaldo wasn't there, they could easily just capitalize on that. Before the competition began, there were talks that it would end the debate that has left unsettled for so many years: who is the best footballer in history of the sport, between Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. Funny enough, Ronaldo didn't have a fair fight. He had just 45 minutes to try and change the trajectory of the mess he found his team in. It couldn't have gone worse for Ronaldo. Messi found himself in the World Cup final, guiding Argentina to a hard-fought victory against France to win the competition.
A heartbeat. And Messi!
Many concluded that Messi settled the greatest debate of all time by winning the World Cup. Of course, Portugal would have been proud to see Cristiano Ronaldo have the edge after winning the trophy, but they didn't even make it to the final. Actions have consequences, and that didn't change for Fernando Santos. That would be the last time he would go on to coach the Portuguese national team, as he was dismissed immediately after the competition ended. A story that could have ended in the most beautiful way ended up bitter as it could. Surprisingly, Ronaldo didn't retire from the Portuguese national team after the competition, with the Portuguese Federation appointing Roberto Martinez as the new head coach, a manager who still believes that Ronaldo has a lot to offer to the team and can also guide his team to future glory. Portugal have never won the World Cup before, and their citizens would love to see their best player in the country win it for them at least once. But it's never really certain, it remains uncertain whether Ronaldo will participate in the 2026 World Cup if another person isn't already there. It won't change what has happened already between Fernando Santos and Cristiano Ronaldo, but it would have taken most of the pain away to actually heal the country if they go on to win it. It's not like it was certain that Portugal would have gone on to win the 2022 World Cup, but they would have had a better chance of getting into the semi-final if Ronaldo was actually in the game from the beginning. The biggest mistake in the history of football of the Portuguese national team will hover around Portugal eventually until they go on to win the World Cup. And even then, it might not still be over.